Thank you and welcome back. We certainly hope that you have enjoyed your comfort break. You did grab a cup of coffee or something heavier like a sandwich or some lunch. Lungelo, please, if you could switch on your camera and your mic. Thank you very much and welcome. And thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for that video and the time it took to get it together. But it was only 1 minute and you do have 20. So if you don't mind, if you could please expand on that video, and then that will give our audience a chance to collect their questions and then engage with you. And audience, Lungelo did tell me backstage that he had to put on a tie and put on makeup for the session. So please, let's not have him have wasted time to do that. Let's engage him. Lungelo, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Pearl, and good afternoon to you and to the audience. And thanks for providing SABS this opportunity to present today. Just to further elaborate on the video, one will have noted that SABS is comprised of a number of functions or divisions. And also the question that being asked most of the time is that within the broader ministries, where does SABS belong? Maybe let me start with that. SABS is part of the DTIC ministry. And as part of that, we are a member of the National Quality Institutes. Together with us is NIMISA, that focus mainly on the metrology part. And then we've got NRCS that focus more on the regulation part of regulated products. And then we've got SANAS that then focus on the accreditation. But as SABS, our core mandate is mainly around 3 areas. To develop, promote South African national standards, because these are the cornerstone of all the objectives or initiatives that any company wants to embark on. The second one is also to make sure that we promote the quality of the products and services that are being rendered. And lastly, to provide the necessary consignment assessments. And these conformity assessment services, one will look at them broadly, mainly being the certification, the testing, and the local content inspection. But to bring it back close to home, Pearl, one will look at 2 particular areas. One is that in the endeavor to make sure that we promote good quality products, we look at 2 things. One, the quality of the product itself. Hence, you will then require the product certification that SABS provides. Most of you, where you are now, you will see that you've got a bottle of water there. And when you look at that bottle closely, you'll realize that it's called SABS approved. That's the product certification that we embark on. But the other one is a system certification to then say that the quality management system organization conforms to the requirements of a number of standards. The well-known one is the ISO 9001 system certification. That then provides the assurance that the quality management system in an organization are robust enough to ensure that all the necessary principles that are there are in place and they are reviewed on an annual basis. But key to this particular event is the local content part. I think as SABS, we have heeded the call to then say, how do we then support the localization broader agenda and also enable that the companies that are manufacturing products locally do have the necessary certificates that supports that, so that they can benefit from a competitiveness point of view and other aspects that we seek to achieve. So SABS, although it was designated or is still designated to be the local content verification agent, specifically around initiatives that talks to the mining charter, we do know that there are certain elements of that charter that has been set aside, but I think the broader objectives and the aim that the localization seeks to achieve is not something that is set aside, but will be looked at, but further refining that. But we have launched a local content scheme, and for us, we are saying that rather than striving for one number, there has to be a broad range in which companies that are manufacturing locally, they can assess themselves. And that starts from a grading scheme of A being 100% locally made, up to J less than 10%. And then you can use that to, from a strategic sourcing point of view, and also looking at how you improve your further input or localization agenda, and make sure that you provide that meaningfully. I'm going to park there, Pearl, and I think for now, that's a broader picture in terms of what SABS provides, and then I can take questions.
Thank you for that, Lungelo. Thank you for expanding on that video. And that was really informative and insightful. We do not have any questions yet from the audience. Audience, please type your questions in the discuss chat button so that we don't have Lungelo having wasted his time putting on a tie for you and I. And Lungelo, you did say that we appreciate that you did come on last minute because your colleague had to do something else. So thank you. Thank you for taking that time, for joining us here and being ready to do that presentation for us.
Okay. Thanks, Pearl, and thanks for the opportunity. Those who then have questions at a later stage, they can then send them at info@sabs.co.za. And that will then be channeled internally so that we can address that. But I see that there's one question there.
Absolutely. Kopano, please go ahead and chat your question to Lungelo, and we will get this show on the road. And Motego is saying thank you, Lungelo, for the presentation. Again, really was appreciated. While we're waiting for Kopano to chat us the question, can we show how much we appreciated this by some applause and some thumbs up, please, audience, just to show that we do appreciate the time. There we go. Just one. Oh, fantastic. Great. Okay. Let me go back up here. We have a question. Hi, Lungelo, and that is from Lungelo. Thank you so much for the question. Do you certify cleaning products manufactured at home in the garage?
Thanks, Pearl. And it's one question that most SMMEs is struggling with. SABS, we do certify cleaning products in general. However, for any certification process to take place, there are a number of things that we look at. One is the facility where that particular product is being made. Is it conducive for that product to be made, and the quality of that product will it not be questionable? So we always encourage SMMEs to make sure that as you make the product, please do make it in a facility that then demonstrate that the quality of the products is not compromised. Specifically, if you look at cleaning products, there are safety aspects that talk to it. There are hygiene aspects that talk to it. So the facility itself has to conform to that. So as much as we certify cleaning products, but we need to make sure that all other requirements are being fulfilled. But I'm happy for Lungelo to send us that information, and then we can look at the specifics of that, and then we can also advise them, because there are other partners that we work with that can still also be able to assist, and then we move them from that level to the next level, and then take it from there.
Thank you, Lungelo. If you could just please type an email address or a website address in the chat function so that Lungelo knows where to address the question to. We've spoken about the quality of products. So last, Raymond wants to know, what are the costs for testing these products?
The cost for testing products, Pearl, can start from a minimum of 100 rands or to thousands and thousands of rands. It's product specific, but before we get to determine the cost of the products, we ask ourselves, what is it that the client wants to do with that product? Because you might just want to test that product for R&D purpose, and therefore you don't want it to conform to the requirements of any particular specification, but just one clause of that particular specification. So will then cost you accordingly. But if you want it to conform to the requirements of the standards, and you want to go through a certification process, so then there's testing and then there's certification, and then we give you a broader costing for that particular products. So I have shared the email address, and if there is in particular question that they want to ask and there's a product in question, we can certainly then look at those specifics and then advise them accordingly.
Thank you very much, and thank you for answering that question. Another question is from Moshe Rafuwe. I'm probably butchering that. I'm so sorry, Moshe. We have an e-commerce site, spazify.co.za, and we are currently looking to list locally manufactured products. What should we look for?
If you go to SABS website, www.sabs.co.za, there will be a link to our local content site. It is still work in progress. As you will know that we are putting these things together. As we then work on listing these companies, we then find a way in which we can look at this. But I need to be clear on this one. There are POPIA requirements that we also need to comply with. So as much as we might have some back-end information, but we're also restricted because of the confidentialities that we signed to then say what can we list there and what we cannot do. The easiest way to do is that if there is a particular company in question, they can send us an email address to then say, this company, is it already certified? And then we'll check in our database and manage that all T's and C's are ticked, and then we can communicate accordingly.
Fantastic. Thank you, Moshe, for that question. Kopano earlier, who said they had a question, as an industrial designer and manufacturer and designs kitchen cutlery locally. What process do I follow to have my products SABS approved?
Okay. Firstly, we need to establish if there is a standard for that particular product, because the standard will then specify the requirements that this product needs to comply with. Once we have established, then we'll then engage on a process of saying that how long does it take and what is the process that one needs to comply with when they say SABS approved. And then working together with that particular manufacturer, we'll then go through that particular process. It's quite a more involved process, and it's a collaborative process. And then so that then we can get to a part, because there's the auditing part, there's a testing part of that particular product. And then once the audit report and the test report has been put together, we then submit internally to our approvals board. And based on the outcome of that, then a permit will be issued. That permit then allows a Kopano, if all is well, to then affix the SABS approved mark on those products. And then they can start to realize the benefits.
Kopano, you heard it here first. Thank you so much, Lungelo. Patience thanks you also for a great presentation. Loretta asks, how long does the application for the QMS take?
I see now, Pearl, the questions are getting difficult as we go along. The QMS question takes an average. It can take 3 months, it can take 6 months, it can take 12 months. It depends how ready you are, because one will imagine that the maturity level and the readiness level of each organization will differ. Some organizations have got well-established quality management systems that are auditable, and in that process will take it will be shorter. But a process where we have to develop everything from scratch, including the relevant procedures, put systems in place, audit that, and then check whether they comply to the requirements, and then start doing system implementation. That process is much involved. And more so around the issues that we also need to involve or observe aspect that talks to impartiality. And there are various scenarios that we need to talk to that, because as a certification body, there are accreditation requirements that we need to comply with. And one of them talks to impartiality. So there's that discussion that also needs to come into play whenever we talk about quality management system development and certification thereof.
See, it wasn't that difficult. You did very well.
I'm sweating, Pearl. I'm sweating.
Oh,
This
they
guy is
can't
not
see
helping
it.
there.
That's okay. We can't see it. Deborah, Lungelo answered the question about how to get SAB approved, but if not, there is an email address there. Please do type your question there. To go to Loretta again. Oh no, that was Loretta. What? How long does certification last for? From Lars Raymond.
How long does the certification last? We've got a 3-year cycle from our side, our certification. The local content scheme certification is longer than that because we do appreciate that companies are also going through quite difficult times, and there's a cost element linked to that. The local content scheme part takes around about 5 years. That's the period there. It used to be 3 years, but we then looked at that. But the general product and system certification is a 3-year cycle. But within that cycle, there are ongoing assessments that are being conducted just to make sure that everything is on track. You still conform to the requirements that we have outlined upfront, and then so that come the time that we renew, we are not shocked. All of us are anticipating the outcome of that. But it's more like making sure that all the checks and balances are in place.
Thank you, Lungelo. I see there are quite a few more questions there. Folks, we're going to have to end the session. Our next session starts in 2 minutes. But Lungelo did provide an email address here. Please send your questions to him, and he definitely will answer those questions. Lungelo, once again, thank you for standing in at such short notice and doing an amazing job at it. Thank you, and thank you again.
Thanks, Pearl. Thanks to all the audience. Thanks.